4 top members of the Taliban's new interim government are former Guantanamo Bay prisoners who were freed by the Obama administration in a prisoner exchange for army deserter Bowe Bergdahl. The 4 new officials were members of the hardline Guantanamo Five who were traded to free Bergdahl from the Taliban-aligned Haqqani network in 2014. The Taliban on Tuesday announced the appointment of Acting Director of Intelligence Haq Wasiq, Acting Minister of Borders and Tribal Affairs Norullah Noori, Deputy Defense Minister Mohammad Fazl, and Acting Minister of Information and Culture Khairullah. The 4 men, who also took part in direct negotiations with the U.S. at the Doha summit last year, spent about 13 years in the military prison camp before they were freed in a trade for the admitted deserter, who was captured by insurgents after wandering off his post. Republican Representative Mike Waltz, a former Green Beret who served in Afghanistan, expressed his disgust that key positions will now be held by the former Guantanamo Bay prisoners. I have déjà vu knowing it's the same national security team in place now that then exchanged such high-value terrorists for traitor Bowe Bergdahl, he told Daily Mail. I personally led searches for Bergdahl and soldiers in other units lost their lives in search of him. Seeing these former Guantanamo prisoners now in charge of a terrorist state that will once again threaten the homeland is a slap in the face to every veteran, Gold Star family, and victims of 9/11. Despite this, the Biden administration has still yet to learn appeasement has serious national security consequences and we are more unsafe now as a result of this disastrous withdrawal. One of the most feared figures of the 4 is Mullah Mohammad Fazl. He returns to the role he held in the pre-9/11 government as Deputy Defense Minister. He is alleged to be responsible for killing thousands of Afghanistan's minority Shia. He, along with the other 4, were released as part of a deal for Bergdahl. The 5th member of the Guantanamo Five, Mohammad Nabi Omari, was appointed governor of eastern Khost Province last month. Abdul Haq Wasiq, head of the National Directorate of Security, was also freed as part of the Bergdahl deal. He was previously the Deputy Minister of Intelligence for the Taliban. He also took part in political negotiations with the U.S. in Doha. Another of the Guantanamo Five, Mullah Khairullah, will be Information and Culture Minister. Mullah Norullah Noori, who served as governor of several provinces under the previous Taliban government, will be Minister of Borders and Tribal Affairs. Human rights groups have also accused him of committing atrocities against Shia and, like Fazl, his troops surrendered to U.S. forces in 2001 only to launch a prison revolt that sparked one of the biggest battles of the early war and claimed the first American life. Women were also absent from the new government announced in Kabul. On Tuesday, the White House press secretary said President Joe Biden was in no hurry to recognize the new Taliban government of Afghanistan. The appointments, including Sirajuddin Haqqani, who carries a $10 million State Department bounty on his head, as Interior Minister, will dash hopes that the Taliban's slick media campaign would translate into a more moderate movement. Biden's spokeswoman Jen Psaki told reporters, "There is no rush to recognition, it is really going to be dependent on what steps the Taliban takes. The world will be watching, the United States included, and they will be watching whether they allow for American citizens and citizens of other countries to depart, whether they allow individuals who want to leave the country to leave, whether they allow for humanitarian assistance to travel, how they treat women and girls around the country." U.S. officials were forced to work with the Taliban during a chaotic evacuation mission. Now governments, the United Nations and aid agencies must grapple with how to deliver emergency help to a country facing a humanitarian disaster while avoiding giving legitimacy to a government that looks much like the one ousted in 2001. Diplomats have repeatedly urged the Taliban to respect the human rights of Afghans, but the new administration in Kabul, unveiled 3 weeks after the Taliban swept to military victory as U.S. led foreign forces withdrew, offered no sign of a more moderate face. Bill Roggio, editor of the Long War Journal, said hopes that the Taliban would offer a new face to the world were nothing more than wishful thinking. now that the Taliban announced its government and it is clear the prevailing wisdom that it would be inclusive is dead, when will other canards, like it is pragmatic, can't govern, wants legitimacy and will moderate or it isn't in its interests to work with Al-Qaeda?" he asked. When will Washington and the press stop listening to and repeating the arguments of the failed analysts and architects of failure, with their canned, wrong-headed, politically expedient talking points? Afghanistan's new Interior Minister, Sirajuddin Haqqani, is leader of the feared Haqqani network, believed responsible for some of the most deadly attacks in Kabul and behind a spate of kidnappings of foreigners. He is on the FBI's most wanted list and carries a $10 million bounty on his head. His father was close to Osama bin Laden, who is thought to have named his terrorist network after Jalaluddin Haqqani's headquarters or base, Al-Qaeda in Arabic. Sirajuddin, 48, has been the frequent target of U.S. drone strikes and is currently deputy leader of the Taliban.